Hi, my name's Neil. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for joining me. For those of you that are new here, I am a 44-year-old skateboarder back on the board again for 5 years after taking a 25-year break. I'm presuming a lot of you watching are in a similar situation, maybe same kind of age, might be rediscovering skateboarding like I am after a long break, or maybe you're just getting into it for the first time at a similar sort of age. Either way, welcome. I hope you enjoy the content. I hope you enjoy what I'm doing. And if that's the case, please let me know in the comment section below. Now, today's video is the third installment of my look back at the year. And if you've not seen the previous ones, basically what I'm doing is trying to go through the past year month by month and talk about the skate sessions that I've done, perhaps what I've been working on, where I might be progressing, what I'm trying to do. And I thought it would be kind of nice to just go through month by month, showing the skate sessions that I have been recording, primarily as a kind of diary for myself to look back on in years to come. But I also thought perhaps some of you might be interested to see it as well. So here we go. This is month 3. So this is March. And if you've seen the first 2 videos, it's a similar story. If you've not seen the first videos, perhaps you might want to go back and watch those too, because it adds some context to this one. There are links in the description below, and there is also one big playlist so that you can play them one after the other in one go. But I started off March exactly where February finished, and what I was doing at the time, and I continue to do pretty much every week, is that I go to my local skate park, which is Bay 66 in West London, and I ride the mini ramp for a little bit to warm up, just going through the motions of my kind of more regular tricks, the ones that I kind of consider to have in the bag, and mix those in with some of the stuff that I'm trying to get more regularly. So perhaps things that I'm not landing every single time, but I'm trying to work them into my regular bag of tricks. So I usually start off with lots of 50-50s and board slides, board slide fakies. And one thing that I started to really try and work on here was to get more comfortable with doing anything frontside. So I started to regularly try and do frontside 50-50s and frontside axle stalls, really because my frontside stuff is utterly terrible. I have what I call the FOF, F-O-F, the fear of frontside, which basically for me is a lot of trust issues in leaning back. When you do something like a frontside axle stall or a frontside 50-50, as you turn up into it, you have to trust and lean back into the ramp a bit, which I classically don't like the feeling of, you know, leaning back and not being able to see behind you. It's what I call a bit of a trust fall. You know, that game that you play where you close your eyes and you have your friends behind you, they're going to catch you, you fall back. And to me, it feels like that. You don't know what's going on behind you, and you have to just trust that you're going to lean back enough and not overbalance and fall on your back. So I have kind of trust issues with doing that. So the more frontside stuff I can do where I'm trusting leaning back, the better. This is all working towards doing more frontside tricks, which I'll talk about a bit later. But yeah, frontside axle stalls and 50-50s are a great way of starting to learn that leaning back trust. Because if you don't lean back enough, you just fall forward onto the platform. You've got to lean back enough to hold the board on the coping and turn back in again. And another little bit of frontside that I've been working on is frontside disasters. So it's a full rotation 180. And once they started to come together pretty well, I started to do frontside lip slides as well. So actually doing the disaster and then a board slide and going back in. So those things were beginning to feel a lot more comfortable, and I started to put them into my more regular group of tricks that I do as a warm-up. Now, as I said just now, what I was working towards was being able to trust leaning back. And really, my mind is on doing Smith grinds, so a frontside Smith and either a grind or a stall. Now, to begin with, I'm thinking about stalls, just doing Smith stalls or Smith stops, as they were originally called. And in order to do that and hold them in place, you need to lean back a lot. So I want to go up and turn into a Smith and stop there, dead, and balance there. And then perhaps half a second later, I'll turn back in. Now, there is a different way of approaching these where you're literally just doing a frontside grind and standing them up a bit as you do the frontside grind. But I want to lock in against the coping really solid and wait there before going back in. That's my goal, and that's the way that I want to do them. So all of these frontside things are pretty much working towards that. So you'll see the beginnings of me trying those Smith stalls at the end of this session. Now I've been able to do the fakie Smith stalls for a little while now because the motion of going fakie holds you in against the coping when you lock in. So what I'm trying to do next is actually turn that around and do them going forwards, turn into the Smith and hold it there. So at the end of this bit of footage, you'll see that I'm starting to work on doing the turns. Now clearly I'm not leaning back enough because I just fall forward on the platform, but I'm not leaning back enough because I'm trying to come to terms with trusting the leaning back. So anyway, let's get stuck in with that first bit of footage. So I think we can all agree that those Smith stalls are quite a way off yet, but hopefully you can see what I mean about I'm not leaning back enough, not trusting the weight on my back foot heel. I really need to sort of push back with my back foot and my back foot heel. I know exactly what I need to do. It's just convincing the brain to do it. So yeah, I was a way off them at this point, but we all got to start somewhere. But really at this point for me, it was about the turn and actually turning enough to put the front truck off the coping. Usually I turn front side and just sort of land in an axle stall. And so what was really on my mind was trying to turn enough to get the front wheels back off of the coping and hanging over the edge of the coping. So it was about that turn, that slightly over rotate more than 90 degrees. And as well, obviously I need to lean back more and put more into my back foot. But anyway, on to the next session. Much of the same in the previous session, going through the motions with those disasters and lip slides, frontside axle stalls, 50-50s, board slides, rock and roll slides. And I also started to make some inquiries, as I say, you know, sort of testing things out, made some inquiries with the frontside rock and rolls. Again, all trying to retrain my brain for frontside. Frontside rock and rolls seem to be incredibly difficult to make myself turn out of properly. I seem to be kind of hugging the wall a bit and leaning too far forward, which made me slip down the wall. And again, the key to this was going to be leaning back more, trusting my back foot. People say about frontside rock and rolls that it is all in the back foot, and I totally agree with that. It's just that my trust issues with leaning back and putting pressure on the back foot to turn out took some real convincing. I managed to sneak away with one or two, but they weren't good. But again, it's just the learning process and making my body realize that it's all right to lean back. So I'm training my brain to trust the front side and trust leaning back enough. And then I moved on to the bowl, and if you've seen the first two videos, you'll know that I was practicing my rock and rolls in the deep end of the bowl and on the smaller extension. The bowl is about 6.5 feet, and then there's like a 1/2 foot extension on the just after the hip. And so I was practicing my decked rock and rolls in the deep end and on that extension. And although I get them pretty much every session, they're not consistent enough. So what I'm really doing is trying to do at least a few every single session, every single time I go there. Just again, trying to get them into my regular bag of tricks so that I don't have to focus too hard on doing them. Hopefully they'll come a bit more naturally, like some of my other tricks, if I just keep on battling away at them every single session. And then at the very end, I just thought I would try out some frontside airs on the hip and the bowl there. I've done them before, little bad early grab frontside airs on that hip, but I stopped for a while because I really hurt my knee slamming from those. But I thought I would sort of make some more inquiries and try and come to terms with doing them again. So I didn't really land any. I put one down, but it shot out. But to me, it's a slow process as ever, and I just sort of reintroducing myself to doing those. So let's check out that footage. Right, so the next session was a vert session at the skate park that I go to skate vert most often. It's called Skaterham Skate Park, and it's in Caterham in Surrey, just south of London. And it's an old chapel. It's got a vert ramp inside, so it was a military chapel or church back in the 1980s. It got turned into sort of a community centre sort of place, and they built a skate park inside. So it's got various things like quarter pipes and such in there, but I only go there to skate the vert ramp, and it's a 10-foot vert ramp. I think it's got about half a foot of vert, but it's a great one for learning vert. And if you've seen any of my videos before, you'll see that I'd skate there quite a lot. Try and go there perhaps once a week. Every Tuesday is a bit of a big session. A lot of people go, and you'll see from some of this footage, sometimes the platform can be completely packed full of people. So sometimes it gets a bit hectic, but it's a good place to learn. And what I was trying to do here was claw back my 50-50 grinds. I've been doing 50-50 grinds on the vert for a little while now, but they come and go pretty much every session. It takes a few runs before I can actually manage to get one. It's mostly psychological, mostly trust issues and believing that I can do it. I'm scared of heights to a certain extent, so skating vert was part of my way of trying to beat the fear of heights. You know, you've heard me saying about how long it takes me to learn tricks on anything really, but vert, it takes even longer because there's much more of a fear factor for me just through fear of heights. I'm quite happy going fast and throwing myself at stuff when I'm on the ramp, but if I'm at height and looking down, it freaks me out a bit. So drop-ins are difficult for me, and turning out of 50-50s are a bit scary. I'm all right getting into them, but it's the turning out of them that's the problem. And I tend to bail when I'm on the coping and before I'd get that moment to turn out. Really, I have to just convince myself to turn out no matter what, and eventually I do turn out of them. Again, work in progress, trying to get them into the regular bag of tricks. So anyway, let's check out that bit of footage. Well, not that eventful. I didn't really do very well there, but you know, it's part of the process. I have ups and down days with vert skating. Sometimes I'm just utterly terrible, and then other days I'm not so bad. So, you know, that was one of the not so good days. There's no rhyme or reason to it. Sometimes it's good, sometimes not. Anyway, moving on to the next session, I'm back again at Bay 66 on the mini ramp, going through the motions of those previous sessions. And I was trying to get those frontside rock and rolls dialed in a bit better. They're completely out of luck at the moment rather than sort of good skill. So it's tough, but I think the more and more I do them, the better I'll get at them. But I'm not at all happy with the way they're going at the moment, but it's all a learning process. And at the same time, trying to do the disasters and all those frontside things. Now, I also thought at the same time that my frontside disasters were getting better, I should probably be doing the backside disasters as well. So I started to learn those as well. And, you know, the thing that I wanted to do with the backside disasters, much like my frontside disasters, was actually pop from the coping rather than do like a scraping of the tail or a quick scrape around 180 kick turn quickly and land in a disaster. I was really keen to be popping off the coping and getting some height out of them. I went through those kind of thoughts with the backside disasters as well. Now, mostly I was popping out too far into the platform, and I think mainly that's a result of speed approaching the coping and also standing up so much when I'm actually popping. It sort of brings me out the top. But again, it's like learning to trust staying in the ramp and leaning in the ramp. So again, it all kind of slowly comes together. But I did do a video about learning backside disasters, which I will put in the comments below if you want to watch the whole thing about that. You know, this session and some of the other sessions coming up, we're all contributing to that one video, so check that out if you like. And then I was also practicing again those frontside axle stalls, frontside 50/50s, the fakie Smith stalls, which were all practice towards doing the Smiths that I want to do. It's all just working on the front side, locking in Smiths and doing frontside turns. And then as usual, headed back to the bowl, deep end, get those rock and rolls done. So, you know, keep on practicing those rock and rolls in the deep end and on that extension, hoping that eventually they will stick and I'll be able to do them every single time. The more and more I do, the more comfortable it gets. When I first started doing them on that extension, it was really scary, even though it was just half a foot higher than the deep end. But even when I started doing them in the deep end, it was really scary. So slowly, the more I do, I am coming to terms with doing them on the bigger stuff. And that was all working towards perhaps trying them on the vert ramp eventually. And as I said in the previous videos, there is a full video about learning to do the decked rock and rolls on bigger transitions. And I'll leave a link in the description below for that one too, if you want to watch that. Now also, you might have seen in the first two videos, I was learning to do rock and roll slides around the corner of the bowl in the shallow end. So this session, I revisited those a little bit just to try and keep them in my mind. I did kind of hurt my knee quite a bit from doing them and bailing on them quite a lot. So I hadn't been doing them quite so often because I just wanted to give my knee a bit of a rest to heal really. But I was also conscious that I didn't want to let them go completely to the point where I wasn't going to be doing them as well and I had to learn all over again. And aside from those board slides, I just thought I'd better be learning the kind of stuff that I can do in the mini ramp. I better be learning them perhaps in the shallow end of the bowl because it's just that much bigger. I want to bring everything that I can do on the mini ramp to the bowl in the shallow end and then eventually the deep end and then ultimately to the vert ramp. So I thought I'd better be doing some of that stuff in the shallow end of the bowl. right, next session was back at Skaterim again, the vert ramp in the church. Obviously the 50-50 battle continued. Sometimes I'll get one or two, sometimes I don't at all. Occasionally I might get several one after the other, so that 50-50 battle is inconsistent, but I'm still powering on, and eventually they might be a bit more consistent. I also have been doing some rock and rolls on the vert ramp. They are not anything that I'm particularly impressed by, but it's still a rock and roll. They are ones where I'm basically riding up and tapping my truck over the coping and turning out rather than decking them. It helps towards trying to learn them to do them the right way, and it's still a trick. So I've been doing those rock and rolls as well. So 50-50s and rock and rolls and backside grinds, and also started working on, again, frontside, which is a whole other game in itself. You know, frontside on mini ramps or lower ramps is fair enough, but once you start getting on the vert, once you're on the vertical wall, frontside turning on the vertical wall, you get this kind of weightless moment where you think that you're basically falling, and coming to terms with that is a real tough one, especially when my front sides are terrible anyway. So I was practicing a lot of frontside kick turns, just trying to keep the speed and get higher and higher, and just scratch out a little frontside grind every now and again, and that seems to be helping. And I'm trying to do that perhaps every session, just squeak out a frontside grind just to hit the coping, make that noise, and it just makes you feel a little bit better about being terrible at front sides. And then also I try and squeeze in a few terrible backside airs. They're really early grab backside airs. They're awful, but again, it's all working towards perhaps improving them, and you've got to start somewhere. So I'm not proud of them, but they're still backside airs. Right, so that's the month of March, very similar to January and February, but that's just the way it is, and hopefully you can begin to sort of build a picture of what my sessions are like. And I have a whole bunch of tricks that I'm working on at once that I'm refining at the same time, and so every session, you know, I'm skating perhaps 3 or 4 times a week if I can at different places, and just trying to get this sort of core bunch of tricks going, and every now and again I might add a new one that I'm trying, but keeping going on all the other ones. So It is a slow process, but perhaps you can see between the January video and the March video, there might be some visible progress there. I'll leave that for you to decide, and you can let me know in the comments below. But hopefully when you look at perhaps the whole year's worth of videos, you'll be able to see there's some kind of progression. I certainly feel better about it, but you know, I'll let you be the judge. So that's March anyway. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoy this kind of content, please just hit the like button. Really helps propagate the video amongst other people like you that are watching the same kind of stuff from other creators, and it just means that other people get to see the same thing come up in their suggestions, and it helps me out massively. Stay tuned for the April video, and I'll get that out as soon as possible. In the meantime, thanks for watching. I'll speak to you all again soon. Take care.